But history gives us patterns to consider. Cardinals typically elect someone who balances continuity with the previous papacy while addressing pressing challenges. They look for spiritual depth, administrative skill, and the ability to communicate the gospel globally. Age is also a crucial factor. Cardinals usually prefer candidates in their 60s or early 70s. Young enough to lead vigorously for a decade or more, yet experienced enough to guide the ancient institution. Geographical considerations increasingly matter too. With over two-thirds of Catholics now living in the global south, Africa, Latin America, and Asia, many wonder if the time has come for another non-European pope. With these factors in mind, let's examine our first candidate, a man whose name is already being whispered in Vatican corridors. Our fifth most likely candidate brings us to the Philippines, home to over 85 million Catholics, the third largest Catholic population on earth. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, affectionately known as Cheeto, represents the demographic future of Catholicism. Born to humble beginnings in Manila, Tagle's rise through church ranks has been meteoric. Pope Francis brought him to Rome in 2019 to lead the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, one of the most powerful positions in the Vatican. At just 67 years old, he's among the youngest cardinals with the experience necessary for the papacy. But what makes Tagle truly compelling isn't just his administrative credentials, it's his extraordinary personal qualities. Those who have met Cardinal Tagle often describe the same experience, encountering a man of profound spiritual depth who radiates genuine warmth. His humility is legendary. He's been known to ride a bicycle to parish visits and live simply despite his elevated position. Videos of Tagle weeping openly while discussing the plight of refugees have gone viral. In an age of polished religious figures, his authentic emotional connection to human suffering stands out dramatically. As a theologian, Tagle balances orthodoxy with pastoral sensitivity. Like Francis, he emphasizes mercy and service to the poor while maintaining traditional Catholic teaching. But would the College of Cardinals really elect the first Asian pope? There are compelling reasons they might. The Philippines represents Catholicism's vibrant future. While church attendance declines in Europe and North America, Filipino churches overflow with young families. Selecting Tagle would signal the church's recognition of this demographic reality. However, some cardinals question whether Tagle's gentle approach would be sufficient to navigate the church through its most challenging crises. Critics suggest he lacks the forceful leadership needed to implement deep institutional reforms. Nevertheless, Tagle's combination of intellectual depth, spiritual authenticity, and global perspective keeps him firmly in contention. If elected, he would represent the most dramatic geographical shift in the papacy's modern history. Our fourth candidate brings us back to Italy, the traditional heartland of papal selection. Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, Archbishop of Bologna and President of the Italian Bishops' Conference, represents a fascinating blend of traditional European Catholicism and Francis-style reform. 68. Zuppi has spent decades in the trenches of pastoral ministry. Unlike many cardinals who pursued academic or administrative careers, Zuppi devoted his early priesthood to serving Rome's marginalized communities, earning him the nickname the Street Priest. His work with the community of Sant'Egidio, a Catholic lay association focused on prayer, poor, and peace, has given him unparalleled experience in conflict resolution. He personally helped negotiate peace agreements in Mozambique and other war-torn regions. What makes Zuppi especially intriguing is how he bridges Catholic divides. Despite his progressive pastoral approach, he maintains strong relationships with traditionalists. He's comfortable celebrating both the modern and ancient forms of the Mass, signaling respect for all Catholic traditions. Unlike some papal candidates who seem uncomfortable with media, Zuppi navigates public communication with natural ease. His approachable demeanor and straightforward speaking style make complex theological concepts accessible to ordinary believers, but Zuppi's greatest asset may be his approach to the Church's most divisive issues. Rather than engaging in culture wars, he emphasizes accompanying all people with compassion while gradually helping them embrace church teaching. This nuanced approach appeals to cardinals who want to avoid further polarization. However, some question whether selecting another Italian pope would send the right message about the Church's global nature. After centuries of Italian domination, followed by a Polish pope, a German pope, and an Argentinian pope, would returning to an Italian signal a step backward? Despite this concern, Zuppi's unique combination of progressive pastoral sensibility and doctrinal orthodoxy keeps him firmly in contention. His election would likely continue Francis's emphasis on a church of mercy, while potentially healing some of the divisions that have emerged in recent years. Our third candidate would make history as the first black pope in modern times. Cardinal Peter Turkson from Ghana has long been considered papal material, combining intellectual brilliance with deep spiritual conviction and diplomatic skill. 1876. Turkson sits at the upper age limit typically considered for a new pope, but his vigor and energy belie his years. His current role heading the Vatican's dicastery for promoting integral human development puts him at the forefront of the Church's social justice efforts. What sets Turkson apart is his unique ability to communicate Catholic teaching on complex social issues. Whether addressing climate change, economic inequality, or international conflicts, he articulates church positions with remarkable clarity and moral authority. Turkson's background is particularly compelling. Born in Ghana to a Methodist mother and Catholic father, he understands firsthand the importance of ecumenical dialogue. He speaks 8 languages fluently, giving him unparalleled ability to communicate globally without translators. His theological perspective blends traditional Catholic teaching with Africa's vibrant, communal expression of faith. In a continent where Pentecostal churches are growing rapidly, Turkson demonstrates how Catholicism can be both authentically African and deeply rooted in apostolic tradition. The significance of potentially electing the first black pope cannot be overstated. Africa represents Catholicism's fastest-growing region, with the number of Catholics expected to double to nearly 500 million by 2050. An African pope would acknowledge this demographic reality while inspiring millions of African Catholics. However, some cardinals question whether the Church is ready for such a dramatic shift. Others worry that Western media would reduce Turkson's papacy to its historical significance rather than engaging with his actual leadership. Despite these concerns, Turkson's combination of intellectual depth, diplomatic experience, and global perspective makes him a compelling candidate. His election would signal the Church's recognition of Africa's central importance to Christianity's future while providing steady leadership during challenging times. Our second most likely candidate introduces a dramatically different vision for the Church's future. Cardinal Peter Erdo of Hungary represents the voice of Catholics in Eastern Europe who maintained their faith through communist persecution and now see themselves as guardians of traditional European Christianity. 1872. Erdo combines intellectual brilliance with administrative prowess. With 2 doctorates in theology and canon law, he's widely considered one of the Church's most formidable legal minds. His leadership of the Council of European Bishops' Conferences has given him continental influence beyond his Hungarian homeland. What distinguishes Erdo is his clear-eyed diagnosis of Europe's spiritual crisis. He speaks powerfully about the dangers of secularization, declining birth rates, and the erosion of Christian culture. For cardinals concerned about the Church's diminishing influence in its historical heartland, Erdo offers a compelling vision of renewal. Unlike some traditionalists who merely critique modernity, Erdo proposes concrete strategies for re-evangelizing Europe. His success in revitalizing Catholic institutions in post-communist Hungary demonstrates his practical leadership ability. Erdo's approach to church governance emphasizes clarity and consistency. He believes strong, unambiguous teaching provides the security believers need in confusing times. This appeals to cardinals who feel recent years have brought too much doctrinal uncertainty. However, critics question whether his more traditional approach would connect with younger generations or with Catholics outside Europe. Some see his election as potentially reversing Francis's emphasis on mercy and pastoral flexibility. Despite these concerns, Erdo's intellectual stature and clear vision for addressing Europe's spiritual crisis make him a strong contender. His election would likely shift the Church toward more explicit emphasis on doctrinal clarity while maintaining focus on Europe's re-evangelization. Our top candidate represents perhaps the most dramatic potential shift in the Church's direction. Cardinal Robert Sarah from Guinea combines the geographical diversity many cardinals seek with a profound commitment to traditional Catholic spirituality. At 79, Sarah is older than ideal for a papal candidate, but his remarkable physical and mental vigor make his age less concerning. His deep spiritual life, shaped by decades of contemplative prayer, radiates in his presence and his writing. Sarah's life story is extraordinary. Born in a remote Guinean village to parents who were converted by missionaries, he later faced imprisonment risks under a Marxist dictatorship. This experience of persecution shaped his unflinching courage in defending Catholic teaching. What makes Serra particularly compelling is his diagnosis of the Church's modern challenges. He speaks with prophetic clarity about the spiritual emptiness of consumerism and the danger of compromising truth for popularity. His best-selling books emphasize the essential role of silence, prayer, and reverence in authentic Christian life. Unlike some traditionalists who can seem harsh, Serra delivers his message with genuine compassion. He frequently reminds audiences that doctrinal clarity is an act of love, helping people understand God's will rather than leaving them in confusion. For cardinals concerned that the Church has become too accommodating to secular values, Serra represents a course correction toward transcendent beauty and moral clarity. His African perspective challenges both Western progressivism and Western materialism. However, Serra's election would unquestionably represent a significant shift from Francis's approach. Some cardinals fear it could exacerbate divisions rather than healing them. Others question whether his more traditional liturgical preferences would connect with younger Catholics. Despite these concerns, Serra's combination of spiritual depth, moral clarity, and non-Western perspective makes him our most likely candidate. His election would signal the Church's recommitment to traditional teaching while acknowledging Catholicism's demographic shift toward Africa. These five remarkable men, Tagle, Zuppi, Turkson, Erdo, and Serra, represent dramatically different visions for the Catholic Church's future. Their diversity reflects the global nature of modern Catholicism and the complex challenges facing the next pope. Of course, papal elections are notoriously unpredictable. As the saying goes, he who enters the conclave as pope leaves as cardinal. The Holy Spirit has surprised the Church before and may do so again. What's certain is that the next pope will shape Christianity's response to a rapidly changing world. Whether emphasizing mercy or clarity, tradition or adaptation, his leadership will influence not just Catholics but all Christians seeking to navigate an increasingly post-religious age. For believers watching this profound transition, one truth remains. Beyond human calculations and predictions, the Church believes divine guidance ultimately determines who will next step onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica as Holy Father. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the men who might lead the world's largest Christian denomination. If you found this video illuminating, please like, share, and subscribe for more insights into Christianity's most fascinating traditions and future. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you in His grace.